Hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz, and I'm back with my very first video of 2017, the looks of love. You got the looks of love, it's in your eyes. Burt Bacharach isn't dead yet. Oh, well, I wanted to saw him a couple of years ago at the Sydney Opera House, but he'd be devastated to hear me singing that. This is a fallen star. This was the absolute colossus of Tier 4. The greatest seal clubber in the history of the game, just about. It was a monster. And somewhere around about April of 2016, patch 2.8 busted onto the scene. And it dragged the looks kicking and screaming into the harsh light of day and the realities that we all have to deal with. They nerfed the hell out of it. And I don't want to dwell too much on that because obviously that is what the tank was, and what I want to talk about is what the tank is now. So they took 40% of the damage away from it. They nerfed it from having 5 double shots in the clip to having 3 double shots in the clip. And that's 4 rounds just vanished into the thin air. And that's on your top gun, your Tier 5 3cm Mark 103. And that's the gun we're going to talk about today, because I still think it's the best gun. But is it exceptional? Well, no, not at all. Not anymore. They also upped the dispersion on the gun. They gave it a bit of a traverse nerf as well. So it wasn't a very popular time for the poor old looks. And it's got some big issues that are pretty standard across lower tier autoloaders. I'm going to run you through some stats on it first, but know this, the penetration numbers on the tank are pretty poor. And that was a lot easier to get round when you had an extra 4 shots to actually do damage with. Now, each shell, when it lands, will do 25 hit points worth of damage. But against some of the Tier 5 tanks you're going to run into, and indeed even some of the Tier 4 tanks you're going to run into, even when you get side shots on them, or back shots on the bigger boys like this KV-1, you're just not going to pen all the time. You're going to throw 6 rounds at them and maybe get 2 or 3 through. And that's a big issue. The other thing I don't like, and the tracks are really soft. You may actually consider running torsion bars with this, which is a good way of getting yourself extra hit points in your tracks and not blowing a trap when you go over a little bump like that. What is good about it? Well, it's a good, solid, light tank spotter. It's got excellent camouflage. It is very quick. It's tiny. It fits in a shoebox. And it's got like really good power to weight ratio, so it zooms about the place, and that's something that you should really be happy with. It's also got 10 degrees of gun depression, so that means you can quite easily use it to fight over the top of hills, and as long as you're not silly about it, you'll be okay, because you're not going to bounce a whole lot. Your armor profile is absolutely negligible, but that light tank ability to drive at 60 kilometers an hour while maintaining full camouflage, just as if you are absolutely sitting still in a medium tank or something, is pretty special. And that enables you to actually exploit certain situations and to find targets for your team, which is what I'm doing here and what I was doing on Canal and a little bit earlier. I'm going to show you another game now from Canal, another excerpt from Canal. I'm going to show you this, and then I'll show you a Yamato Harbour game I had with Snake Eyes, and it's the first run we've had of 2017. So it was poor old Snake Eyes getting stuck with me playing Tier 4. God bless him. We're going to reset cap here and then move off up to the right, because it's not a tank you ever want to go like head to head in with multiple targets at once unless you absolutely have to. And so at least now we've isolated this M8 up here, and we can start moving around and trying to use what the looks brings to the table, which is really good mobility, and just I'm going to be sneaky and move forward and backwards and duck and weave and jink and jerk and really make him work for any shots he's going to get, and then make sure I hit with all the shots that I lay out. That's exactly what's happened, and it's a good tank for that. You can do those kind of things, and that's fine. I'm running vents, optics, and a spore liner in this, but you could conceivably run anything you wanted in that third slot. It's not an absolute must-have. And you're going to see here that I'm constantly working this house here to the right so that I can get a full reload on before I pop back out. And that's a common theme. Anytime you're driving an autoloader, that's something you really want to be doing. You want to be maximizing the amount of time you spend on target with an absolutely 100% full clip. And you've also got to know when to be a little bit careful, and that's what I'm doing here. I've not really given that M8 much of a chance, and I've let someone else knock him off, and I'm going to reset the cap. That's all well and good. So you've seen there, I'm pretty careful with it. And in the old days, I wouldn't have been nearly as careful because it would have had the firepower to take out 2 of those targets without really worrying too much very, very quickly. And that's meant you've got to be really sensible with the way you drive it. Now you're going to see there's a leopard there, and he's going to push really hard, which is just a little bit silly, really. Basically, there's no red spotted when they go through there, and it turns into an absolute disaster. And I'm not going to go and do that because I know that there is absolutely every chance if I go over the top of that mountain, there are going to be 4 or 5 tanks there that just want to rip me apart. So I'm going to hang back here. I'm very, very comfortable with being called a coward. You're going to see throughout the course of this game that I take my time. I take my time in everything I do because I'm a tier 4 tank in a tier 5 game. And you're going to see tier 5 an awful lot. And that's a big deal because tier 5 tanks can really upset the apple cart. They can absolutely just delete you off the face of the planet if they land a couple of HE shells. You have gun depression, you have good camo, and you have speed and mobility. And in my case, I also have a snake eyes. Now, you won't have one of those when you're driving around, or you might. You might have a platoon partner that you really trust. And that lets me work, and it lets me basically take the strong parts of his tank and the strong parts of my tank and formulate a game plan, which is that we're too late to go over there and help those guys. We've got a whole heap of dudes over here. We're going to try and just make a bit of a stand here, get rid of 1 or 2 tanks, and hopefully by the time we whittle them down enough, then they clear our right flank, we'll be able to do something with these other tier 5s that are left over. It's not a great plan, but it's the plan we've got. I'm going to push forward because the Luchs is very, very quick, very mobile, and I'm able to get on top of that ridge line there, and I'm going to spot targets up for Snake. He's got the DW2, which has an excellent 75mm gun, and is a fairly sturdy little barn as well. So it's a good tank, and you can see it doing the 160 average alpha that is the hallmark of a 75mm gun right there. You really want to make sure with this tank that you don't end up in situations where you have multiple full hit point targets to get through. And it's unfortunate when that happens, but the reason I say that is because your damage is just not strong enough to burn people down. You've got to be very canny about the way you provoke the enemy, and you've got to be very much aware of where they are at all times. And you've also, with a gun like this, and if anything's at range, you've got to squeeze those shots out. Otherwise, you're going to miss. And you saw there, that's exactly what I was doing to that KV-1 and that Crusader as they crossed over. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't just go hog wild on occasion. If you can nut a tank completely like that, you should push up on it. And especially if it's a very, very slow tank and you can get behind it, like a non-turreted TD, like a Hetzer or an Su-85. And you'll see some examples of that in the course of the rest of this gameplay. So we're now on our little old lonesome with 5 tanks against us. Isn't this just the way of the world? And we deserve it. Now that Hetzer has snuck around the corner. He's missed me, but he's going to give my good old mate Snake a bit of a touch up. And I'm just going hell for leather to get out of the way. I'm also hoping to reset my camo by the time I climb up there and actually get some shots back into the Hetzer. And there we go. The camo was reset and we were firing from stealth. We've made him a one-shot, that's grand, but the Su-85 has popped his bloody head up as well, and we do get a couple of shots into him. So I've got 2 left there, and I'm going to do a full reload because of it. There's the Hetzer. If Snake Eyes can get rid of him, that's grand. And we're going to set up again. I reckon I can reset the cap from here, and that's exactly what we're going to do. There we go. All we need is to get one of those 4 shells that we fired in. And you can see we bounced a lot, but we managed to get one in, and that's reset the cap. I'm now going to push up here because basically Snake doesn't have enough hit points left to take anything. And I'm very much the only one we've got. Now you can see this 10 degrees of gun depression is actually going to help here. Once he's fired, I'm into him, and I'm going to land just about a full clip into the side of him, and even though he does take out Snake, it means that by the time I've got the reload done, we're going to be able to be in a manageable situation now, where we have 2-on-1. Now, it was 3-on-1. It was, in fact, 4-on-1, but the KV1 has managed to drown himself. And I will take whatever tender mercies the world is willing to give me. I'm pushing up really hard because the last thing I want to do in this tank, in any type of light tank really, is be in a situation where there's 2 tanks on me at once. And this is what I mean by its mobility is great. It can get around behind people, and I can get behind this SU-85 and basically ride him like a wild bronco, get a lovely little engine fire, and then just use him for cover from that Crusader and get away around there, and Bob's your mother's brother. How about earlier on when I mentioned that I wasn't going to go crazy and YOLO, I was actually going to take my time and work things through, because this is not a crazy YOLO tank anymore. It is not a burn 'em down tank anymore. What it is a light tank with some lovely features and the ability to carry a game if you play smart and you deserve it. It is not the kind of tank that will just simply overpower an enemy with pure DPM and mad skills. And I say that in inverted commas. So there you have it, guys. The Luchs is a fierce little machine. It can do the business. It is about the size of a postage stamp, and it's got a little bit of a sting in the tail, but it is no longer the absolute carry monster that it once upon a time was. There is so much going on this first part of the year for me. I've got a whole lot of stuff done. We're going to be filling out some of the lower tier videos. I'm going to try and keep it to a low tier, a mid tier, and a high tier every week. But at the start of all this, it's going to tend towards the lower stuff. This week, I'm going to be running an AT-15, an M6. I'm going to try and do the VK3601, the Leo, the AT2, and indeed the Luchs. I'm going to be doing a subs replay on Saturday, which will be Noob Commander, a YouTube luminary who's now also a patron, who does the memes every time a patch comes out and has lampooned me in the past. God bless him. With an FV 183 replay. There's a podcast with Alex from Wargaming. So he's going to be talking with me about all kinds of things, including the M60, the upcoming nerfs to mediums, the 047, all different kinds of things. So make sure you're listening to the podcasts. I'm going to be doing that on Wednesday. I don't know if I'll release it Wednesday or Thursday, but it'll be out very soon. We're also going to be doing a live Twitter podcast. Now, basically what that is, you won't be hearing the podcast live, but I'm going to be taking questions and thoughts from the tweeting universe. Make sure you follow my Twitter account for that. It's at Bushka on Blitz, and the hashtag is BlitzTweet. Hashtag BlitzTweet. Just hit me up with that and I'll do my level best to have a chat with you. I'm going to be releasing a schedule as well, so you guys will have an idea on exactly what's happening, but it's something along the lines of videos during the week, podcast every Friday, the live Twitter podcast. There will be a stream every Thursday. I think we're going to be running that on a Thursday. And there will also be a subs replay every single Saturday. So look forward to a little bit more of a structured year. I spent a fair bit of time during the holidays going over exactly what I was going to be doing for you guys this year. And I hope that it's going to improve your experience and it's going to make sure that you get as much out of the channel as absolutely possible. And for the patrons, I'm also going to be doing a forum in the sponsors section where they can make suggestions for videos and all that kind of thing. And sub replays, as also patrons are going to be sending those in. Everyone's going to be sending those in. That's bushkawonking@gmail.com. Anyway, until next time, thanks very much for listening. Thanks for giving me a fantastic 2016. We increased the channel by just a gloriously large amount. We were doing a 10,000 subs celebration about a third of the way through the year, if not a quarter of the way through the year. And we ended up getting to 24,000 subs when we kicked into 2017. So hats off, guys. Thank you so much. Love your work and look forward to seeing you all out and about on the battlefield. Until next time, stay safe.